Divinity Original Sin is obviously an RPG. Maybe it's not that obvious, but it's not a first-person shooter. It's a party-based RPG that you can play in single player, and we also have drop-in, drop-out multiplayer. If you're playing in single player, you have to control your entire party, and in multiplayer, your friend takes over the control of one of the party members. Your party can grow up to 4 people, so you can play this together with 3 friends. There will always be at least 2 characters in your party, and those are these guys. They're the main characters. And the story is about them, and the other guys that join the party are just henchmen. What's special about these characters is that they also can do source magic, and source magic is only being used by the bad guys who are trying to take over the world, because that's what bad guys do. They don't really have hobbies. And so we're here to turn the tide, because the other guys are just fighting with clubs and swords, and we also have magic. It's a Divinity game. It's actually a prequel to the entire series of Divinity, and that means that in Divinity you always have to be able to interact with everything. So everything that's not too heavy or that's not nailed to the ground, you have to be able to pick it up and interact with it, throw it around, open it up. There's nothing in it, and smash it to smithereens. So I can pick up more stuff like that. And I also need that one in the future. Now, apparently in this barrel there was some water, and that created a water surface. And one of the things we can do with source magic is we have the Ice Dragon spell. And if you use that in combination with the water, it transforms the water puddle into an ice surface. So these things, the source magic, is actually magic of the 4 elements, like earth, wind and fire, the band that everyone knows, and water. And they react like a bit of a rock, paper, scissors system. They react to everything as you would expect it to. So if I use a fireball on the ice, it'll melt and turn back into a water surface. It might seem silly right now to do that here, but of course we're going to use all those things to our advantage in combat. We're running around here and just picking up some stuff as we go along. Now these 2 soldiers here are bickering about, are we going to go up to the lighthouse like our captain told us to or not? Actually, they're a bit scared to go there because it's haunted. In this dialogue, which I will not read you through completely, I'll just tell you what went on there. In this dialogue, they actually talk me into doing their job for them, and they say like, yeah, we'll keep the rear guard safe and we'll go over there. So let's go up to the lighthouse. Can't be that bad, can it? So we're going up to the lighthouse. The atmosphere changes. It become a bit more gloomy now. There's nothing special with this lighthouse. I can't get in because I need a key. Investigating some more, and we come across a ghost. Now, it's not really that scary a ghost, and I can actually talk to him, so it's a friendly ghost. And in his dialogue, he tells me that he's doomed to work the lighthouse because he killed himself. He killed himself because he killed the girl that he was in love with out of jealousy. And now, after that sad story, I can talk to the party members. So often in the game, you'll be able to talk to your party members about a certain topic or experience that you just had. The topic here, we also have more light-hearted ones, but this one is about crimes of passion. So if you commit a crime of passion, does that make you just a murderer? Does that make you a criminal? Or is there other things at play here? So the topics that you can talk about, we want to get like a reaction from the players that are playing in co-op, so that they would maybe even discuss this in real life. So it's the kind of thing that doesn't really have a good and a wrong answer. It's not black and white. So I can say, I can say I feel sorry for him, or I can say I think he's a monster. And we don't have to agree on these little discussions. So Benoit is now picking however he feels. He says, yes, I understand. So we're both compassionate about this guy. Now, other than stats in certain feelings, this will define the relationship between the 2 main characters further, and that will come into play at the end of the game. So in the big finale, we will see how do these characters feel. Do they agree a lot, or do they disagree most of the time? And it's also fun to see how the game grades your decisions in these little dialogues. So I'm going to start going back to the soldiers, but we're stopped by a couple of skeletons and a zombie. And as you can see, the combat in Original Sin is turn-based. So I have a couple of action points that I can spend, and I just have enough action points to go up to the skeleton and smack him around a bit. Also during combat you can still interact with the world, so Benoit is now throwing a barrel right in the middle of the fight. The skeletons take their turns, it's the zombie's turn, and he actually pukes on me, and that poisons me, and it also created a surface of acid. So anyone going through that acid or standing in it will take poison damage, even more than normal. I'm going to spend a couple of action points to walk out of the acid surface so that I don't take too much damage. And actually in the rock, paper, scissors of the elements, fire trumps acid, so I can put that thing to fire. But I'm going to blow up this barrel because it's actually an oil barrel, so a fireball on an oil barrel will create a little bomb. So I blew up the oil barrel, taking along with it 2 skeletons that died, and the zombie is now also caught in a surface of lava, and he's on fire, taking fire damage. And with a couple of shots from bow and arrow, he's also dead. Of course, friendly fire is active here because we're not immune to these spells, but Benoit can make it rain, and making it rain puts out fire. So I'm not on fire anymore now, I'm wet. Of course this does make me more susceptible to electricity attacks, so the enemy will start taking advantage from it, and also the lava surface that was here is now going away because it was raining. We're going back, and we can now either just ignore those guys and go to their captain and take the reward for finding out what the problem with the lighthouse was, or we can talk to them and then choose if we tell them or not. Now, just like in a tabletop RPG, when you're playing together with a friend, you actually talk about what you're going to do. So here we allow the players in the party to be in on the decision, so everyone has an equal voice here. And Benoit here says we want to tell the soldiers what happened, and I can actually disagree. I can immediately agree and say, like, yeah, let's tell them, or I can say this pair of show-offs, they just let us do their dirty work. So I'm going to choose that. And if we disagree in a dialogue, if we are in conflict, the RPG system in the background rolls some dice and takes a couple of stats into account, and then checks who's going to win this discussion. And apparently here Benoit won. So we're going to tell these soldiers what's going on at the lighthouse. And they thank us and they immediately run off to tell their captain. We're not following those guys because I just want to pick up a couple of things here. You might be wondering why I'm picking up all kinds of junk, because normally in an RPG you would only be picking up like weapons and equipment and shields. I'm also picking up other stuff. Sometimes it's like seemingly useless, but in Divinity you can most of the time do something with all the items. Some of it is junk, but some of the junk you can use. So of course I can equip that weapon. For instance, this mushroom, it's a poisonous mushroom. I can combine that with my sword, and then I have a poisonous sword. I can combine an apple with a healing potion, and that creates a detox potion. So the next time a zombie pukes on me, I can immediately take a potion, and that works as an antidote against the poison. The piece of wood here, if I'm a bit creative, I can carve up a little wooden figurine with my knife out of it. This is actually the first step of making a voodoo doll, and it's not something that I know, it's something that I found out by reading a book or someone told me. So some of the item combinations you're going to find out by accident or by experimenting, but we're also going to make sure that there's enough hints towards what you can do with all these items. Speaking of items, there's always an imp in a Divinity game that gives you teleporter pyramids, and that's this guy. So he has a cameo in every game that we make. I'm just going to click through the dialogue so that he gives me the teleporter pyramid. So these teleporter pyramids, they always come in pairs, and using one will immediately teleport you to the other. Unfortunately, Zigzags, the imp, just gave me one of the teleporters, and he said, I don't know where the other one is, that's for you to find out. So it could be at the bottom of an ocean, it could be in the belly of an orc, it could be just at a bar. But I kind of trust my designers, so I'm clicking it, and of course I end up in the bathroom of a woman taking a bath. There are a couple of weird choices here, like is there room for two in there, or I can give her gold if she holds her tongue, or I can be a gentleman and apologize. I had to force that option in there. And of course she's not very happy, she doesn't want to get out of her bath, and she says, get out, you pervert. So I'm picking up the teleporter stone. I also stole a bucket of hers. She's not getting out anyway, so... So she's screaming her lungs out, and the guards come in and say, what's all this fuss about? What are you doing in Esmeralda's house? Now in some dialogues I'll be able to intimidate these guys or try to charm them. I'm a stronger man than I am charming, so I'm going to use a strength check here, and it's successful. So these checks aren't always successful, and sometimes they don't really care about what you tell them to. And in this case, they believed me and they leave me alone, but sometimes they give you a warning, or they fine you, or they actually put you in prison. Now, again, I've been picking up some crap, and for instance, a bucket, what can you do with a bucket? In a Divinity game, you can use it as a helmet. I picked up a broom. What can you do with a broom in Divinity? It's actually a weapon. It does crushing damage, and so if you don't have a lot of gold, all this stuff works in the beginning. As you can see on the left screen, the party doesn't always have to stick together. Benoit is free to do whatever he wants to do, and now that I have picked up the other teleporter pyramid, he can use his one and quickly teleport over to me. So now we're back together. I'm going to show you something else that we can do with the teleporter pyramids. I'm asking this guy to go inside of his house, because I'm using, I'm saying like, let's trade. So normally the door is locked, he unlocks it and walks in. And I actually want to have the piece of paper that's lying on the table there, if the clicking would cooperate. Clicking cooperates. And then this guy should say, leave that piece of paper alone. Don't know why he doesn't do that now. So he says, that item is not for sale, put it back. So I can either, I have to throw it back. I can either kill him over it, but I'm going to use a more civil solution and use my teleporter pyramids. So I'm going to go back out, because every time that he sees me picking up the item, he's going to nag about it, because you don't just steal from people. And now he's back outside, he locked the door, but I can get in with the teleporter pyramid. I'm going to pick this one up, pick up the paper, he won't react to it anymore because he can't see me, and teleport back out because the door is still locked. So now with that portrait, I'm one step closer to making my voodoo doll, because the voodoo doll has to resemble an enemy of yours before you can use it. This is actually a portrait of an orc. I drag it over there, now I have a figurine of an orc, and if I now use voodoo dust on it, I create a voodoo doll. So in combat, I'm going to be able to use that voodoo doll against that particular enemy. So Bucket Man and our heroine are going to run down to the beach to see that the things that you do in Original Sin, they have consequences. So all the choices you make, they either have immediate consequences, like people giving you experience, gold, an item, a magic spell. Sometimes it takes 5 minutes or 5 hours before you notice that something that you did had an impact on the world. For instance, these two guys were bragging to their captain, like, we found out what was wrong in the Lighthouse. So they're kind of stealing your thunder, and now I can choose to either tell the captain the truth or also to support those two soldiers and say they did a real good job. So we're going to lie through our teeth and say these are the best soldiers you've ever had. And the consequence here is that the captain is so pleased with their work that he promotes them to sergeants. If we would have told him the truth, he would fire them from the army, And those guys would actually start taking up the profession of adventurers, and that would really be, they're not that good at their job. The problem is they're also not good at their job as sergeants, so you will notice that later on in the game. Another choice and consequence example is, for instance, these guys, they captured an orc female and used the love potion on her so that now she fell in love with one of the soldiers. And that guy is saying she's completely harmless and I actually start liking her, so why do you want to kill her? And the other guy says, yeah, but she's the enemy, we have to kill her. So they ask me for my opinion, and again we have to make a decision. So it's a dual dialogue again. We're just going to agree. Benoit says kill her at once, and I can say I agree, you have to kill her because she's the enemy. So the soldier that wanted to kill her actually does kill her, and now that guy's pissed off. If we would have said don't kill her, the love potion would have worn out and she would kill the two soldiers and jump into the sea and swim back to Orkland, I think. But now, so the consequence is that one of the soldiers, for the choice that I made, one of the soldiers is pissed at us, and that will have another impact later on in the game. Now we keep on going to the beach, and in combat that guy, Elio, is actually the guy that corresponds with the voodoo doll that I have. So I can use the voodoo doll against Elio, and he will take damage or even die. So I did damage and he says, what's this? So at the start of the game, the orcs and their leaders don't know that we also have source magic. So this Elio character reacted to me using the voodoo doll, and he also doesn't know that we have a solution to his skeleton bombers there. So normally these guys, they just run up to you and explode themselves, taking you along with them. And there's not much you can do against that. So if you want to hack at them, you have to stand close to them and then they explode. From a distance, a normal bow and arrow doesn't do much. But with the source magic that we have, we can easily blow them up. So if you make it rain, their fuses go out and they're harmless. But I'm going to use a fireball because that creates this chain reaction of explosions among them. And Elio runs away in panic because he doesn't know what just happened. And even the orcs took lots of damage from those explosions. So that made the fight already a bit easier for me, using the voodoo doll against the guy, using my source magic in an intelligent way to blow up those guys. So what we're doing is we are planting combats like this so that we challenge people to think about it. So there's multiple ways of going into these combats, but there's always a couple of safe ways to handle combat. That's also why there's a couple of puddles of water here, so we can lure those guys in there and electrify the water. So every time we will challenge the player to combine his skills in an intelligent way, look at the tactics and the behaviors of the enemies, see what their weaknesses are, use the environment against them. In closing, we're also going to ship the editor that we are using to build this game along with it, so that the players can start creating their own adventures with the tools that we are using. So we're hoping that the community will start making adventures like these, and so that they can share them with all the other players around the globe. So you can start building your own levels, you put items in there, you put characters in there, you give them dialogues, and you use an easy scripting language to script the logic behind it. That was Original Sin.